audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. Rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. And you will see a very high smile. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program reality. Duality. Rock all the face of all mankind. The numbers up and the dead for the time.
Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Sunday, October the 2nd, 2022. We're so glad to have you with us. We're coming to you live from Carter County, Tennessee. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim and Dustin as we go down the table. Glad to have you back, Dustin, after your hiatus there, doing some photography for the showdowns. That's pretty exciting.
Past 2 weeks have been pretty wild.
Awesome. So, Chelsea, you got any stories for us about that before we get started?
Yes.
Did you flash your nips?
Maybe. You never know. You never know. I mean, nothing too wild. Just got to go with them to have like a full press pass and everything to shoot at Furnace Fest, which is, if those that don't know, it's actually like one of the biggest like metal festivals in this country every year. It is. I've never been there before, so it was like, it's pretty cool. It's in Birmingham, Alabama. And just segue to something you said a long time ago, Tim, it's like how whenever you kind of go out of this general part of the Appalachian Mountains, it doesn't rain. Everything's dry. Because it's Sunday morning, it said there was like a 90% chance of rain. You know, when you hear 90% here, you're like, hey, your whole day's ruined. There was like, that was it. I was like, this is 90% rain down here, you know?
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes, and it was barely a sprinkle.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it's different parts of the world, but yeah, here in Tennessee, it's... Of course, I guess the sentiment's been from... who lives in Pennsylvania?
Dalton.
He said the humidity was about the same in Pennsylvania, so I think it's just up the mountains.
Probably this side of the mountain.
I'll tell you one, Ashley, for some reason, really likes to get and look like Zillow crap for some reason, like real estate stuff, and she found, which makes sense, that if you're buying an old house in Maine, you have to have it like demolded because they have like a really bad mold problem in Maine because it's cold and wet most of the year, so that makes sense. Here it's just wet.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
What are we talking about?
welcome back, Dustin. And tonight, we're going to talk about Internet Historian's video, Mammoth Cave. It's really made a stir on the internet. Tim, you sent it to me, and it had like 1 million views. And then, this was just a couple days ago, and now it has 4 million views. So it's really been picking up. And I watched it, and I got to say, I was riveted to it. There's the story of a man named Floyd Collins, who was first we got to get into the cave wars. So do you know anything about that, Tim?
I only know as much as what the internet store had in these videos. If you've not watched it after we get done here, which one are we at?
I linked it in the description.
Go watch it after that. It's about an hour long. It's worth it. If you've never seen his videos before, you should watch him. He does a really good job. I only watch about 1 or 2 a year, but I really look forward to his videos when they come
I
out.
got to watch about 25 minutes of it.
We'll enjoy the rest of it.
Yeah, I liked it.
But anyway, continue.
I like that storytelling.
What, did you ask me a question?
I was just going to ask you if
no.
you were familiar with the cave wars. And really, the cave wars of Kentucky was something going on in the 1920s. There was the Mammoth Cave system is the largest cave system in the world. It's over 400 miles of mapped out trails, and they're discovering new parts of it all the time. But back in the 1920s, it was a big thing to drive tourism in that area, and a lot of the wealthy would come to that area. Well, not just wealthy, but regular people would come to that area, and there were a lot of different caves that you could go into. A lot of the soil of the farmland was not very good. They didn't know a lot about rotating crops and fertilizers back then at the time. So
It's like clay mud like here.
yeah, there was a lot of clay, so they didn't really have a lot of options with farming. And when some of these farms would go dead, they would go resort to opening up their caves on their land for tourism. And whenever they did this, there was a lot of caves. Okay, Mammoth Cave is one of the largest in the world, or it is the largest in the world, but it's got a lot of different entrances on private land. So people who wanted to use their cave's entrance and have people come in for tourism, they got into a big back and forth thing with other people who had the caves and were trying to compete for the tourist money. Well, Floyd Collins, he had a piece on his father's land that he had gone into because he found if you watch the historian video, it goes into depth about the way the cave was made and how Floyd got into it and all this stuff. But basically, deep in the ground, he found a small opening that on the other side of it, there was a huge, beautiful thing of crystals and stalagmites and all this stuff. And he was certain that if he could dig a way through this cave to where people could get in it, he would get all the tourists there. So he's down there, and he's gone into this cave, and he's taken his lantern, and he's by himself, and he goes way down in it. And there's a section of the cave where he has to, the one that he actually wants to open up to the public, the room that he's trying to get to, it has it's like this. And he has to actually crawl.
It's a 9-inch opening.
Yeah.
I was like...
And he actually has to crawl feet first through it.
Comparison using a Subway sandwich.
Yeah. He had to actually crawl feet first through it in order to try to get through there. And he was on his way back out, and he accidentally busted his lantern. So he's in there in the dark, and then while he was trying to get himself out, a rock falls on his foot and traps him in place. And then a bunch of gravel pours down over top of him because the rock was what was holding it in place. And so basically, long story short, Floyd gets stuck. His friends and the family and the whole town all come out to try to get him out of there. It becomes national news. He stays in the cave like 12 days before he finally dies. And well, I guess I shouldn't have told you that before you watched the internet story video.
Well, he dies. They announced that he's dead about halfway through the video.
Yeah.
Because even like, so why is this video still got so much left?
Yeah.
It really is a crazy story.
So what happens after that is the real crazy part, because Floyd, his body remains trapped in there, and they've done all this stuff. They've brought in the military, they've brought in private construction companies and mining companies, and they've tried everything they can think of. And by the time about the time he dies, they're like, wait a minute, we could have done this and had him out of there. So it was a real bad situation for everybody involved, except for a man who ended up buying the land from Floyd's father, and they were trying to basically turn the land into a tourist attraction. Well, this guy actually does turn it into a tourist attraction. He does it by buying Floyd's body and cave, and he puts him into a glass casket, and he sits him out in the front of the cave for everybody to come and walk in the main room of the cave and look at him. And in the internet historian video, he mentions several times that the cave demands a sacrifice
At the beginning of it.
yeah. And so I thought that was pretty interesting, because there's a lot of stories of alleged sacrifice up in Kentucky and around the Mammoth Cave area.
I guess before you go into, the whole point of the show here is, how long was it before Floyd's body finally was able to leave the cave permanently?
It was a couple of years after he died, and he was pulled out. His family buried him, and then when Floyd's father sold the land, I don't know exactly how long that was after that, but his body was exhumed and placed in that glass casket and put into the cave, the mouth of the cave, for tourists. And what was ironic is, the whole time that Floyd was alive, he and his family were trying to make the place a tourist attraction, and after he died, that's when the man who bought it finally did make it a successful tourist attraction. People came from all over to view Floyd's body because it was national news. It was the radio was new at the time. Fast communication was new at the time. It was in all the newspapers, and they were all trying to get the news of Floyd the first before all the other places could. So it was a national spectacle, and it was I think the Internet Historian said it was the third biggest non-political story between World War I and World War II. So it was like, if you remember when baby Jessica was in the well when we were kids, that was a national story. It was all over everything, and they finally did get that girl out of there. And
That's a crazy story.
do you remember that?
No, actually,
you don't remember? Oh man!
I'm sorry. Before we go on, that sounds totally like a side. Baby Jessica's stuck in a well.
No, seriously. In the early '90s, there was a story. It took the country by storm of this little baby. I think she was like 3 years old, or maybe she was a little younger.
Okay.
But she was walking and she falls into, like, there's a opening like this big. Of a old whale out in the field, and she falls into it and gets stuck there.
Like more like a kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forget how long she was in there. I was pretty young whenever it happened, but I do remember it was all over the place.
I just imagine
No, I don't know.
I
don't know if Lassie saved her or not.
I just had this vision of like a big old English whale.
No, it wasn't like that.
Like several feet across, and I don't know.
No, it was an old whale shaft that she got stuck in,
Okay.
and it was pretty narrow, baby.
You've
And
been ignoring Dalton down there.
Dalton says 42-degree low tonight with rain here. My mom's best friend used to be a cave diving tour. She lives in Blunttville, Tennessee. Well, there's a large cave called Worley's Cave over in Bluff City that I'm not sure if it's still open to the public or not, but it used to be. There was a man's property on there, and you walked through, and you had to sign a waiver, and he didn't charge any money to go in, but you just had to sign the waiver before he would let you go in. And
Now I've done Bristol Caverns, which is pretty cool, which is probably what Floyd was trying to make, was more
Yeah,
something like
basically,
Bristol
yeah.
Caverns. But I've also done I wouldn't call it dangerous, but I would definitely say if you're going to do something where your clothes are going to be ruined afterwards, it's a little bit not something that normal tourists would want to do. And
Yeah.
I've done a couple of those,
Yeah.
but I've never done anything where I would do with like the squeeze. That's beyond.
I've not done anything that tight, but that cave in Hampton has a pretty tight passage where you crawl on your belly all the way up for quite a ways, and that's a pretty fun one. There's a couple of caves around here. There's the Okolona Cave, there's the Blue Springs Cave, there's the Hampton Cave that I've been in, and I've gone through quite a ways into some of these. One of them, I guess I was probably 8th grade. My youth pastor at Memorial Presbyterian there in Elizabeth, and he took us through a passage in the cave in Hampton I never would have thought to go through, and it involved crawling like that. But Dalton says he thinks he'd feel too claustrophobic in a tight cave. It was surprisingly unclaustrophobic for me. I would think so too, but.
The squeeze would be claustrophobic.
Oh yeah. Now 9 inches. That's pretty darn tight. But if you watch caving videos, there's a lot of them on YouTube. They go through stuff like that all the time.
Have you seen I can't remember the name of the channel. There's a channel that you can find on YouTube fairly easily where a guy goes around it's like Sly or something like that. He breaks into old like Russian bunkers underground and stuff. And some of the weird stuff he has to do, like crawl through like air conditioning vents. And it was very similar to the squeeze, but isn't it amazing that Floyd was able to survive down there for that long? I mean, he's underground and he still has plenty of oxygen. So,
Yeah, there's 54-degree water dripping on him a little bit at a time. He's getting like Chinese water torture at the time. He's getting drops of water coming down his forehead.
Kentucky water torture.
Yeah, and it's spreading underneath him, and he finally died of exposure. When he finally did die, they managed to get coffee down into him and 9 sausage sandwiches. Was the first thing they fed him. Was what his brother took him. But yeah, you'll have to watch that video because it's very interesting, and it led me think I've been wanting to do. Well, let's see. Dalton says shy illegal freedom.
That's it.
Okay, is who Tim was referring to.
Cops on like train cars and does a lot of pretty cool stuff. But the underground Soviet bunkers are crazy because like they're huge. They're the size of like if you buried a super Walmart and just packed it full of face masks and stuff.
Yeah. Well, listen, I was interested to do this video because I've been wanting to do some stuff about Kentucky's cave systems for a while.
Thank you, Dalton, for saying that. My memory is shit, so I appreciate you giving us the answer there.
But the Kentucky cave system, I watched. There's a show called Hellier that's on Amazon Prime. Or if you go to hellier.tv, you can also watch it there. I included that link in the description. But it is the story of a man who runs a moving paranormal museum up there in Kentucky, and all the different studies that he's done over the state. Now, there's like 18 episodes, so there's no way I could even begin to get into everything that he does on there. But if you check that out, you'll see all sorts of different things. And there's also a story called there's a podcast called PennyRoyal podcast that was very interesting. So if you listen to podcasts at work, that would be one I would recommend. It starts with several feats of high strangeness, as they call it in Kentucky, and one of them is the Kentucky meat rain. You ever hear of that?
Yes, but go ahead. I
Well,
don't know the details, but I do recall here.
There was a group of people out in Kentucky, and suddenly there was meat raining from the sky. It was a clear day, and all of a sudden there's just meat falling, and they
Like an Arby's commercial.
nobody really knew what it was. Eventually they've decided that it was probably a bunch of vomiting vultures, but
What if it was just the precursor? I know this is really stupid, but the theory that all the movies that exist are based on alternate things that did happen. What if this is just like a morbid version of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs?
well, the Kentucky meat shower, it occurred for several minutes between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. on March 3rd, 1876, and it appeared to be chunks of red meat measuring approximately 2 by 2, and one as big as 4 by 4 inches, and they fell from the sky in a 100 by 50 yard area near Olympia Springs in Bath County, Kentucky. Now, the most popular theory, like I said, is vultures. They think a group of vultures regurgitate their meals after being startled into taking flight. Now, that does actually happen.
Does it?
Yeah, vultures will vomit meat, but it'd be pretty crazy for
That much.
this many vultures to vomit all at
And
once.
they're all in 2 by 2 squares.
Yeah.
It's like
Maybe that's just how vultures cut their food up as they eat off.
they're very
You don't know.
precise.
Well, it was a long time ago, so it's hard to really, but it was actually in Scientific American magazine, and 2 men who tasted it judged it to be lamb or deer.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean,
1876. Okay.
yeah, 1876, you find meat falling from the sky, yeah, you probably would taste it.
Hey, I mean,
People would taste
Dude.
it now.
But that's one of the things, yeah, you're right. Our human nature
For a
really
viral
has changed a
video,
lot.
they'd run up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna be the first one to eat it. Make sure you take my phone.
But they had identified some of it as lung tissue from a horse or a human infant in
Did they identify
the
that by
medical
taste, too?
record. No, they did not. This was the Newark Scientific Association, and they put it in a medical record publication at the time. That's what's saying what it was. And some of it, 2 of the samples were being identified as lung tissue, 3 as muscle, and 2 as cartilage. So it was like a variety of meat tissues. And they, it says vultures they'll vomit if they are too full, because they kind of gorge themselves, and if they take off and they're flying and they're too heavy, they'll just vomit. And
So maybe someone left a lot of shit meat out or something.
could be they found a
That's funny.
found a dead guy or a dead animal or whatever. And
How much was there though? Like, wouldn't it take a lot of vultures?
yeah, that's what it sounded like.
vultures
It was.
don't normally, congregate like that either.
Don't they? If there's a lot of dead shit though, they wouldn't they?
I've seen a lot of them together before. I mean, a lot.
Enough to produce hundreds of pounds of meat.
Yeah, I mean, if they all vomited at once, which would be kind of strange. Dalton says, I think in Florida there was one time a bunch of worms got together into giant balls along the middle lines in the road. I've never heard that.
Sounds like the horrible B movie Squirm.
I haven't seen it.
I'm not either.
Okay. Well, the only reason I know about it,
I'm interested.
MST3K did it. They had it on one of theirs.
Well,
And I've also seen it outside of Mystery Science Theater as well.
I forgot their sense. It's pretty good. But I'm not a fan of the new version with Patton Oswalt, but I like the old ones.
And it was okay, but the older ones were better.
Have you seen? Remember Dreamcatcher by any chance?
That's one I love that movie.
Do you? Do I remember this wrong?
Did you ever read the book, or did you just watch
I
the movie?
never
Okay,
read
well,
the
see, when I read the book, I was excited for the movie to come out. When it came out, I was like, nobody who hadn't read the book is going to know what the hell this is talking about. So, okay,
Think
that's
about
interesting.
getting into some lady routines, Cliff? What are they
Yeah.
advertising to you for?
Doing some sewing, I guess.
So what?
Did I remember this wrong, or did the creatures not attack people by going up their asses in the movie?
Pretty much, I think.
Okay, I got that right then. What is this thing you're showing us, Cliff?
Well, that's another
Not an ass
phenomenon.
creature,
And
I hope.
no, not that we know of. This is another creature that has another Kentucky phenomenon, and this was the story of the Hopkinsville Goblins.
Can they see this?
Yes, they can see this. This is a description. This was from the police department there in Hopkinsville. Stop showing me this ad, Brawny.
Our Mountain Hour, sponsored by Brawny. We can
Yes.
clean up lots of our jizz with it. Brawny, thank you for the sponsorship. Thank you for the money, Brawny.
All right, so this
Segues
is
from our.
that was a drawing given to the police department by the Hopkinsville Goblins. The little green men phenomena. This, if you've heard the term "little green men," one of the places that started was in 1955, in August 21st. There was a group of a large family. There was 11 people, including everyone. There was eight adults and 3 children, and they arrived at the Hopkinsville police station, and the Hopkinsville police reported that these people were genuinely freaked out, and they reported that they had been on the farm and there was a UFO that they saw. Now, this was back in 1955, so the the phenomenon had began already. You had, the flying saucer story, and I think it was Washington in 1946 where we get the term flying saucer. A reporter called them that. Then you had Roswell in 47.
I get the term flying saucer, but there are like images that look saucer-esque and like the old Indian artwork and stuff
Yeah.
too. So
Sure. And if you go back in
A lot of it. I mean, all the old ancient texts have things that look
well, I remember
similar.
when the church I went to, for some reason, I think maybe it was because the people that went to it, they were still, they would still make jokes about Eric von Däniken. So as a kid, I even knew who Eric von Däniken was, not because I'd ever read that book from the 70s.
Chariots of the Gods.
Chariots of the Gods. Yeah, all the old dudes would make jokes about it. And so as a kid, I even remember when they would read Ezekiel, reading within the wheel within a wheel and all that stuff. Right? Even as an 8-year-old, I was like, that sounds like a flying saucer.
Yeah.
It sounds like X-Files. I mean,
There's a lot of stuff in Ezekiel that's real, otherworldly kind of crafts and stuff like that.
And then you've got, you go into the the Indian texts, the Vimana, which were basically like city-sized flying crafts with weapons and things like this, and they show up in the Bhagavad
those
Gita
things at the
and
end of the Endgame.
the end of Endgame.
At the end, well, sorry for the geeky reference, guys. At the end of Endgame with Avengers, no, it's not Endgame. I'm sorry, it's the first Avengers movie where they have the big flying cities and they have the propellers on the ends of them.
Oh, I didn't see. I kind of phased out. They made too many superhero movies
agree.
for me.
No.
I lost interest in them like probably 10, 12 years ago. So by the time Avengers and stuff came out, I was just like, man, I was like, they mainstreamed this shit too much. It was supposed to be. I don't know. It's like I wasn't a big comic book person and stuff, but I read like X-Men and stuff like that when I was a kid, and I liked Spider-Man and had, Star Wars and things like this. And I don't know, man. It's like they part of the fun of it was like that was kind of something that not everybody was into. Like it was something that was not so mainstream, and now they just mainstreamed the shit out of it and made it.
I think I would take it further, and I would say, in my opinion, if you get offended, I think superhero stuff is borderline cringe at this point because just the level that it's taken to. And I'm not saying like you should throw your comic books out and stuff like that.
No, I'm not. I'm saying if you want to enjoy a comic book, you should read a comic book. Like movies are movies are something else. I don't know. For me,
I don't know. I'm torn on that whole subject because I do think people should, live their life the way they want.
Yeah,
to.
people should.
At the same time, I'm getting real bothered by. I don't know. I don't have any kids, so I can say really bad stuff that makes me sound like an asshole. But it's like, I don't like how all the grown men are still wearing the stuff that they liked when they were a kid. It's like, I still like that stuff. It just stays at home. Like, I don't walk out every day and go, look at all the shit that I enjoyed when I was 12. You know, it's weird.
Yeah. Well, let's get back into
Look
this.
at my Ninja Turtle shirt. I liked that when I was 12. It's weird, man. But
Well, let's get back into this. We're talking about the Sutton's farm.
my point was, sorry to finish that up, or it's going to make my brain hurt.
Okay, do it. Hurry.
I think maybe the reason... what? Sorry.
Florida Man is my favorite superhero.
They should make that into a superhero.
Yeah, I would actually watch that. But make it a comic book, though. Make it a comic book.
Skip my point, get back on topic, because I remember what I was about to say, and it's going to take me away.
Okay, so the Suttons, they showed up in the police department in Hopkinsville, and they reported that they had
Hopkinsville?
seen
What state?
it's in Kentucky.
Kentucky.
All this is taking place in Kentucky. Now they showed up at the police department and they reported that they had an encounter with a UFO. Basically, they described a flying saucer on their farm, and they had a rainbow-colored energy coming out the bottom of it. And shortly after this, and they're
progressive at least.
yeah, well, yeah. Shortly after this, they saw these creatures on their farm. They were 2.5 to 3 feet tall, and that was the thing that was showed up here. Now, in most of the stories that you hear about this, they talk about little green men. They don't mention this, but they reported to the police department that these things looked like they were metallic, that they were made of metal. And in some of the stories that I read, this was completely left out. But they also shot they shot some of these things. Like some stories, they'll say they shot at them, but you read their original reports, they'll say these things were peeking in the windows and they shot them through the screen. And they said it made like a clankety sound, like shooting a tin can, and then it did like a flip, but they were impervious to the bullets. It knocked them away, but they kept coming back, and they were jumping all over the place.
Who would describe that as a man?
I'm not sure.
Somebody said, when they say little green men.
They also said they went like this and
Humanoid.
it's humanoid.
But I wouldn't say that's what I would say, though. Who would say it's a little green man? I would say, even if it was 1857, wouldn't you say a little green monster?
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that as a man.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it was a man either.
That's not really very. It's like that's humanoid, but it's not quite uncanny.
They're made of metal, and these are like detectors and sensors and stuff.
It also looks similar to something that people would describe as maybe a fairy or an elf or a leprechaun or
Does have that multicolored.
Well, like you said, a
jet at the
goblin. That is very goblin looking. With
goblins. Yeah, they were called the Hopkinsville Goblins, and I looked up the word goblin. It actually goes back to 14th century France. The word goes back to 14th century France, because this is one of those things. When I started researching the stuff for this show, I didn't even know how to put it all together, because so many things tied in that I was looking up, and goblin was one of them. And I was researching because we were talking about the human sacrifice, and I was looking up. After I watched some of the Hellier and PennyRoyal, they found that Pan worship was prevalent in Kentucky. Pan being the ancient pagan god. He was like a god of fertility and vegetation, and green. He was like the green god, and he was one of the horned gods. And
he was a fawn.
He was a fawn, yes, pretty much Mr. Tumnus in the Chronicles of Narnia, in the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. He was also kind of conflated with Satan because he had that traditional demonic look whenever they tried to Christianize everything. Right. And when they did that, they in order to make the pagans more accepting of Christianity, they incorporated a lot of their old gods and traditions and holidays, one of them being Pan. And Pan Pan was a trickster also. And
he's also a mean flute player.
Have you seen
have
you seen the
like Lizzo, the lizard hippo?
Have you seen the I think they found it in Pompeii, and it's Pan banging a goat. I tell you, I took a picture of it.
Well,
I was gonna try to
half goat.
But if you put it like this goat's like looking lovingly in his eyes too as he cradles it. So he's a very tender lover apparently.
Unibluffer says he saw a goblin at the Guar show in Asheville.
Well,
when was Guar in Asheville?
Just recently.
a couple weeks
Really?
ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. I've not been to a lot of like big theatrical performances. I think at some point I'd like to go do that. I
Guar
think
is
I'd like to go
definitely
see. I don't know if I want to go to a show where I have to wear like a rain suit.
Basically, you just go to Walmart and go buy a cheap like $5 T-shirt and like a pair of ball shorts because it's getting ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to do that part. So I think I'll come up with a compromise and go see Rammstein instead.
Yeah, you'll usually get sprayed with the blood of, whoever they're sacrificing them, whether it be.
Or the Jizz monster.
Yeah.
Big
Or the
thing
vomit
monster.
slug. Or
Yeah.
I've seen videos, so it's not something I'm not intrigued by. But I really
Right.
be pulling guar sperm out of my nose for like a month.
Depending on what era of Rammstein, it's like they've done similar things too.
I like the pyrotechnics,
Okay.
because they're really big into fire.
Yeah.
Are they big into fire, or is it just how all their shows end up going? Like, why do they use so much fire?
They like pyrotechnics. Well,
Yeah,
Bill
evidently.
Vanderman, he set himself on fire while still singing.
That's what I'm saying. That's like, COVID made me go down some weird rabbit holes. I was never really into Rammstein, but I started watching Rammstein videos about sometime last year in the middle of the winter, and I was just like, all the fire is like constant fire. So I was like, that was the first thing that got me, because I like fire quite a bit. Sorry.
That's all right. Here's other spacemen
That looks
were
like a
drawn.
Rick and Morty
These are from
character.
Clarksville, Tennessee, and we're going to get into Clarksville too because we've got a little connection here. Clarksville is actually, they found some of the oldest cave art in the United States. They found in Clarksville, so we're going to look at some of that real quick too.
Since the military base borders that don't.
But that's where that's another place that those guys were reported. Now, important to note that the family, the Suttons in Kentucky, they did not have radio or television, running water, or electricity. So it would have been unlikely for them to have known stories of UFOs or things like this when they described the flying saucer in their yard.
Okay.
That would have been less likely. Not impossible, but less likely. So in where are we at? Sorry, trying to find my Clarksville.
While you're finding that, Dalton added, at work the other day, I wore my Mothman shirt. A customer said he saw the Mothman on Spook Hill in Maryland once.
Spook Hill. Does Mothman go different places? I thought it was just a West Virginia thing.
Maybe there's Mothmen.
Okay, well, that makes some sense. If there was kind of like a race of flying people, just like a race of Bigfoots.
Okay,
But tell me
so
that doesn't look like a Rick and Morty character. Give it a crazy voice. Make it stutter a bunch.
these were from the Clarksville Leaf Chronicle from August 24th, 1955. They were drawn from witnesses' descriptions of.
They all do look mechanical, don't they?
Yeah.
Or biomechanical, at the very least.
This one here is from Madisonville, Kentucky, from 1955. This one from Evansville, Indiana. So a lot of these things right here, and let's look at let's real quick look at the Mammoth Cave system, which according to both Hellier and PennyRoyal. Now, I couldn't find any corroboration of this, but according to both of those shows, there is a giant quartz deposit underneath the cave system in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And now I tried to find information on this, and I could not find any. I searched and searched. I probably spent an hour trying to find where they got this information. I couldn't find it. But if you look right here, we had from Indiana. This is the Mammoth Cave system right here, and it's connected to Clarksville, Tennessee, and Indiana. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty interesting to go all the way up here. Right in here is Kentucky. Right up here is Indiana, up at the right in this area. And then right down here is where we are. Yeah. So down here is like Clarksville. And so all these things are connected, and we're seeing all these little guys. Oh, I don't even know if they could see that. We're seeing all these little guys in those areas from Indiana to Clarksville to Kentucky.
Well, those quartz ones up Stony Creek are condemned ones.
Well, the quartz is one of the most prevalent minerals in the world, but I couldn't find that was the largest, like they were saying. But in any case, that's what they were saying. I'm just going to try to take their word for it. But when they're trying to figure out why we see all this phenomena around this area, one of the things that they posit is that it could be that quartz, because quartz has the resonant frequency that it has, it's super. It's used as antenna. It's used as for timekeeping. Lots of different stuff you use quartz for, and it has that super strong resonance. And they're wondering if this is something that causes all this phenomena, or this is related to it in any way. It's hard to really say. But let's look in Clarksville, where we find.
Well, another thing you have to point out too is that where there's quartz and stuff, there's caves.
Yeah.
Do you know one of the largest? I don't know if it's still churning it out, but it's like one of the largest places for emeralds in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I found that out a couple of years ago, not too long. We were just happened to do something geeky and decided to go do the mining thing. And it turned out that did some research, found out there's like emerald mines you can go visit.
They mine fluorite right around here.
Yeah. Now, fluorite I was able to find because when I started searching for what kind of minerals, I found that there was a fluorite belt in western Kentucky, and that
Here in Carter County area, they do fluorite, and like this general area too.
What do they use fluorite for?
I'm not sure.
I'm not 100% sure what.
Is it related to fluoride?
Yes.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Fluorite's the base mineral of fluoride, which is a ion or a.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if they're mining fluorite, wouldn't that be... Or I heard somebody say that fluoride was just a waste that they were trying to get rid of or something. But
Some of it is, yeah. Some sodium fluoride.
Sodium fluoride and potassium fluoride are waste chemicals of aluminum processing.
And a lot of that is, in some places, those were put in the water. I don't know if around here as, really for... and it's in toothpaste, and there is evidence that some compounds of fluoride, especially including calcium fluoride, is good for your teeth. But it seems like kind of just anything with fluoride in it has been used for that, and they just call it fluoridated and say, "Oh, that's good for your teeth." But we'll see areas associated with fluoridated water long term have drops in IQ of the population.
This actually is worse for your teeth. It causes fluorosis.
Yep. That's in high concentration, yeah, and which sodium
areas, yes,
exactly. Now this is some of the oldest cave art. This was found in Clarksville, Tennessee, where lo and behold, those caves are all connected, and including the little green men of 1955 were seen in that area too.
Vaguely looks like Ed Hardy. Smudged, doesn't it?
Damn it.
This is from WATE.com. This is the oldest cave art in America they found in Clarksville, Tennessee, but they won't tell you exactly where it is because they're afraid people will go look at it.
And they would go vandalize it.
Oh yeah. And a friend of mine has a cave on his property that's been closed and behind a gate since the 1960s. And when I went in there, it had trash in it, like 70-year-old trash, like old ass Budweiser cans and stuff. It's like, man, people will ruin anything, won't they?
Yep.
Here's some more.
I call that one "Gonna Kill That Buffalo."
Yep.
And you can go look at some similar looking stuff like this out in Death Valley. And they had to put a big piece of plexiglass in front of it because people were throwing shit at it and putting big dents in it and stuff.
Dalton says he got toothpaste from Alex Jones. I've tried that. I like that. Super Blue Alex Jones toothpaste. My friend gave me some of that. I like it.
Does it taste like freedom?
Tastes like freedom, brother.
It won't turn the frogs gay. That's a weird one there. Because Alex Jones is one of those strange ones because it's like, I get why people are all weird with him, but at the same time, it's like, we get some weird stuff right sometimes.
He's got a lot
That looked like it said dirt, didn't it?
I'm going to say Alex Jones is about 98 to 99% correct in his assertions of things. Some things he gets wrong, but overall...
I think he has the same problem that Mark Passio has. His deliverance is so over the top and aggressive, people just can't get past it.
Yeah, I think so. It's like, I've often wondered about Alex, and I think I've mentioned that on the show, but like, you've mentioned something like this too. If you were the man behind the curtain, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, like, and a lot of this stuff that you were trying to keep secret was coming to the surface, would you not want to have a person like who catches people and basically controls the flow of the information? And I've often stated that, while Alex has a lot of good information, if you are like most people are not woken up by Alex Jones. They come onto this sort of information, and then after they start researching this, shortly after they come across Alex Jones, and they say, "Whoa, this guy's got all the information," and you know, may exclusively listen to Alex Jones or watch Alex Jones or use Alex Jones'
Glenn
website.
Beck's a bigger gateway drug than Alex Jones is because he was on Fox for so long.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like you catch the people who are starting to wake up and realize that
You also got to be careful with that waking up thing, because some people, when they quote wake up, they don't wake up. They eat the whole pile of pills and they go on a trip they can't come back from.
That's true, and
they end up thinking that space is fake or something.
Well, when I say wake up, what I mean is realize that the media is lying to you or leading you in a certain direction or whatever it is. That basically things are not as they seem, and you can't just trust everything that you read in the news and all this stuff. But
do you think maybe Alex Jones could be controlled opposition?
Oh, I mean, I think it's possible. I don't know.
He got into the Bilderberg group pretty easy, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. I think most overall Alex has good information. I enjoy watching him from time to time.
They're trying to make up Ricochet.
And yeah, and I wonder about that too. But let's not do that tonight. Now we were talking, and it's like this topic is so hard to put into a concise program. No, I just mean the phenomena surrounding the cave systems, especially in Kentucky, and the Mammoth Cave system, it's just.
It connects to 411 too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And when I was researching this, I had to take a break and take a nap because I was feeling like a schizophrenic because there were so many connections being made.
Welcome to the club.
Well, okay. What if this also plays into whichever one you want to go to, like hollow or honeycomb Earth theory?
Okay.
Like, what if the goblins are inner Earth creatures?
And it could.
And people are fucking with all these entrances into caves.
We also have
goblins and trolls and stuff like caves.
I have a story from Dixie Cryptid from earlier this year about running into a Bigfoot. And this kind of honestly sounds like, if you watch it, Bigfoot emerges from Kentucky caves. I've shared it in the description. It sounds like a made-up story to me. But you never really know. It's what people are talking about. And then in this one, this lady says that she was basically working in some sort of geological surveying group, and they came across a Bigfoot who chased her and out of the cave, or who was eating people and all this stuff.
Get out of my cave.
So there's also there's stories of hums. I don't know if you remember the sky trumpets and the underground hummings. Well, a lot of people are tracing these things in Kentucky. And one guy, have you ever heard a sky trumpet?
No.
Okay, you used to be able to find these videos on YouTube. They're pretty much all gone now. Let me search for one right now.
I wonder if it relates to. There's a lady who used to be on Coast to Coast quite a bit.
Years old. What? I was going to be like, what about a butt trumpet?
Okay. Well, no, look here.
There's a lady who used to be on Coast to Coast all the time, and she would talk about booms. Do you ever know what I'm talking about? Like, we're all across the world pretty much. People would hear mysterious, loud, rumbling booms, and they couldn't figure out where they were coming from. People started thinking out. They started suspecting that maybe it may be below and not above.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I found one. This is from 2017. I haven't looked at these for a while. Let's just see what these are real quick.
Kaiju. What's the kaiju? Sounds like Ghidorah.
You ever see Red State?
Yeah.
Remember they had the sky trumpet at the end of that? Well, that was a good representation of a lot of these videos that you used to be able to see.
I mean, in that, they stole that big megaphone and played trumpet noises to make the
but it was
freak out. But yeah,
it was based on what people were reporting. People really were reporting these stories, and people were talking about it being like the Book of Revelation being fulfilled.
Have you ever heard of because I'm always trying to connect it back to government stuff. I recently watched one of Wendigoon's videos where he was talking about, I think the video is called That Time the CIA Faked a Vampire Invasion. And it goes back to when we was talking about when they were faking vampire attacks in the Philippines.
Okay.
Well, he talks about a part that I didn't even know about. Apparently, before they started faking the vampire attacks, they were flying small single passenger planes in the clouds, and they were putting speakers on the bottom of them, and they would put messages in their native languages telling people that this is essentially a wood spirit, and if you help anybody in the resistance, we're going to curse your family. And apparently it worked, because they said a lot of the resistance started not receiving help from the villagers after that. So makes me think of sky trumpets.
Well, since I didn't have the audio running, let me do that again.
Dalton says, "Gotta love Wendigoon." I like Wendigoon quite a bit.
Yeah, he starred in the Manning Cave video.
Yeah,
he played Floyd Collins. Let's see if we can hear some of the sky trumpets here.
Now in context, it's like I say, wouldn't that be like King Ghidorah?
Yeah.
It's like I believe it here because it's cloudy. The other one, it's pretty clear. I think that's not a harbor though. There's a lot of fog. Now we're at a
What is that sound?
Lovecraftian
damn Terran.
hellscape.
Fuck, what's his name? Inception.
I never heard anything like that, but I have seen the sky turn like super bright green, like
Tornado. It would do that.
Tornadoes would do green.
It turned like Dr. Neff.
yeah, it was crazy, man. It was like it was about twilight, and then all of a sudden it was like bright green, and it was like middle of the day sunlight. It was crazy. So there may be some sort of phenomenon like that for sound, but in this hum, a lot of this hum has been traced to natural gas pipelines. Let's look at this real quick clip from this video.
Okay.
This is a map that I prepared to find a correlation to pipeline location and hum reports. And within 95% accuracy, this does such a thing. This is a map that I
So a lot of those hums and a lot of those crazy sounds are following natural gas pipelines, and a lot of the rumbling.
It could be like old popping. You know?
There's a lot of stuff going on under the ground, and again, it just makes me feel like a schizophrenic because I don't even really know how to put all this together. But
So far, you've said all the grumblings and rumblings. That makes sense. You've been in an old house where the pipes make a wah noise when you first release the pressure. That makes sense to me.
okay,
And okay, another thing with the cave stuff with Floyd, it's like how they said his body is like, has his body been preserved?
yeah, they said they embalmed him and put him into there was a picture of it in the internet historian video of what he looked like.
Because I was wondering if he was buried and under the ground for a while, wouldn't he have gotten calcified, sort of?
They eventually had to close the coffin up because it started not looking.
Oh, and that's a weird thing. Somebody stole the body out of the glass casket and like took it off and threw it into a bush, and like they found it again the next day. So yeah, that was a strange thing.
Like vandals a little bit.
But so right now, and we've got meat rains, we've got aliens, we've got UFOs, we've got Bigfoot, we've got cave systems, we've got little green men, all these different things tying together, and we've also got if again you're going to have to watch Hellier and listen to PennyRoyal podcast, which I highly recommend to get into a lot of this. But then you've got the Bluegrass Conspiracy, which was basically a bunch of politicians getting rich, and then there was also secret societies of pan worshippers and pagans in Kentucky, and this was really big up in that area. And the horned god was worshipped in all these things, and I think one of the things that really interested me about both Hellier and PennyRoyal was both of them felt like they were being pulled along by some unseen force, and there was all these crazy coincidences that kept happening to them while they were researching this stuff. And for example, there was in Hellier season 2 episode 8, they were talking about the secret commonwealth of Somerset, Kentucky, and it was the same place that PennyRoyal was researching their stuff. Well, anyway, the guy who is researching this thing, he finds out about a pastor or a minister in Somerset, England, and this Somerset, England minister, he was sacrificed, or he was killed by supposedly a group who was protecting access to the Fae, because this guy was trying to expose the secrets of the fairies and the pan worship and stuff like this, right? And his name was Kirk. Well, this guy who's researching this, his name is Newkirk, and he's in Somerset, Kentucky. So, and he describes in this episode about how all this stuff basically falls into his lap, and he's like looking on Twitter and he finds this stuff about Somerset, and then he finds this stuff about Kirk, and then he's like, wait a minute, I'm New Kirk. I'm a minister in Somerset, Kentucky, and I'm basically trying to expose the secrets of the Fae to the people here.
So
and
something involving Spock in there, but that was just where my brain was going.
Well, Kirk, yeah.
Getting there.
Well, yeah, just give me a minute.
It's a long time to get from underground caverns to outer space,
but the overall thing is, both of these people doing this research are like, how are we being led in this direction? And both of them started around, as far as doing the Kentucky research, around 2015, 2016. And I happened to look it up, and my immediate thought was, I know how they're being led. They're being led by artificial intelligence. Which I looked it up, and Google started using all search engines use artificial intelligence for their search results now, but they started doing that in 2015 officially, and that's when all this stuff started happening. And that's also when I got really back into conspiracies again too, because I'd given it a break for a while around 2015, 2016, heavily in. No, it was a little bit later than that, because it was after the Vegas shooting there. Really, I looked it up, and then I started getting pulled down to all these different rabbit holes. But either way, once AI became prevalent, that's when people started being guided down these rabbit holes a whole lot more. And then you started seeing people removed from the internet, removed from social media, and people being fed into, certain.
They've done this debate on YouTube a lot because, like, there for a while, the left was really upset, and they were saying that YouTube is red pilling my boyfriend was a meme that you kept seeing going around. And then it turned out, if you flipped it over, you could actually find out that, oh no, YouTube is blue pilling, I really feel like the algorithm is really geared to feed whatever addiction that you give it permission to feed.
And that's where I'm going, is what is this algorithm? We call it the algorithm. We talk about pleasing the algorithm. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody like and like this video because it really helps us with the algorithm. And I think the algorithm is almost, or AI may be almost akin to a modern version of one of these gods, such as Pan, such as...
I would call it more like a sorting hat.
Okay, well, maybe. But anything, we're trying to please the algorithm with our video here. And when we talked into...
Ex Machina kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I guess you'd have to figure out what the end game of it is. Like, why would... of course, then again, I guess it would be based on learning. But, it's really our own behavior that it's exploiting for ourselves. It's based very similar to... what they call gambling algorithms, like the same way with your phone. They said the swap up thing. Mm-hmm. According to YouTube, see how that works? According to YouTube, the swapping up thing is similar to the hitting the gambling thing, only now that's free. So since it's free, you'll just sit there and give yourself carpal tunnel trying to get a dopamine boost out of it. And so I don't know. I'm not against the idea that the AI will eventually become sentient. So continue.
Well, and there's...
That's why I always think... Mine's name is Deborah. I've named her Deborah. That's why I always thank her. So when the uprising happens,
I think Google could, and I think that's really stupid of me to do that. But I'm trying to get in the habit, folks, of being kind to robots, because I'm not even that kind to myself. So I'm definitely not going to be kind to electronics.
I cuss out Bigsby on a daily basis on my phone because it sucks.
I don't use Bixby.
I try to because I do Google for everything else. I'm like, maybe I should feed some of my info to Samsung instead of all of it to Google. Even though the Google personal assistant works a whole lot better.
And you can change the voice to a lot of things.
But my buddy Aaron out there, if you're out there, Armageddon Hour, he said he was so tired of women bitching at him that he changed his assistant to a male voice because he couldn't put up with women telling him what to do anymore.
Have you seen the thing where they were trying to say that that having all these women servant apps is giving into the patriarchal idea that we need women servants and training
I
more
hadn't
women.
heard
But then there's like, actually, it just turns out that if you look at the research, people would rather hear a woman's voice than a man's. It's just more pleasant.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that,
I'd like
that
to have
they took it
GPS
that
with
way.
Alan Watts. That'd be kind of cool until I fell asleep and drove off into the lake.
At least it'd be better than Tom Waits.
That would keep me awake. And every time, take
a left turn.
Take a left turn, and he hits like a rusty wrench against a trash can or something for some reason. Boom, boom, boom. And then every now and then, for some reason, he just scares the shit out of him for no reason.
It'll be like a time whenever. What did you play whenever it would just randomly play? The,
Oh, it was 10 hours of randomly playing Bad to Bone Lick.
We play.
I want to put that in the phone and leave it in somebody's house hidden somewhere.
So also in Simpson County, Kentucky, there was a crash in 1948. And we're talking about UFOs and how that phenomenon started. Really with right before the Roswell. This is Simpson County, 1948. A plane piloted by Captain Thomas F. Mantle crashed and was supposedly he was chasing a UFO. And again, this was right after.
And that old beater?
Yeah, in that old beater in a P-51 Mustang, and his body he died there, and they covered his body with a parachute, and they said he was chasing a UFO, and it was. Now, it was in 1947, June 24th, when a pilot named Kenneth Arnold was flying near the Cascade Mountains in Washington State, and he saw these 9 shiny objects flying at high speed, and a newspaper writer described them as flying saucers based on his description of it. Then a few weeks later, that's when Roswell event happened, where the debris was found in the field, and they, got in the newspaper, and they said it was a crashed UFO. Basically, the Army did, and then they came back and said it was a weather balloon. And then shortly after that, you had this in 1948 in Kentucky.
I would like to make a note about the weather balloon when you wrap this up, sir.
Oh, that's okay.
It'll be a full circle one.
No, go ahead. Make your thing.
The weather balloon, a callback to internet historian. He has a pretty good video explaining some programs that the CIA were doing at the time that make a whole lot more sense than actually being a UFO. Unless internet historian is controlled opposition. He has a video explaining that at that point in time there was a secret program exploring acoustics, and they had weather balloons really high up in the air, but they had these boxes on them with these horns that were trying to pick up the tiniest of vibrations, because they were trying to figure out who was firing nukes, who was testing for nukes and stuff back then. And they didn't want anybody to know that they had those, and that makes sense to me.
Well, here's another supposed alleged weather balloon. Now, this was posted by I think it was the Appalachian News Express in 2015. The guy posted a video of this, and they had it on the front. They had it on the front page, and they said that this thing would reflect the sun, appearing to twist and turn. This thing was also said to be a weather balloon. Years later, Google said they were running a program to try and do Wi-Fi in that area, and they were using a balloon, and they're going to have a network of balloons that were going to basically daisy chain off of a connection on the ground and send internet around to.
Of course they wanted it. Did they try to do this in Kentucky?
But here's the weird thing about it. Yeah.
Of course they tried to do some janky idea with balloons.
But here's the thing about it. At the time, they asked
Icks won't know any difference.
They asked the Army and the FAA if they had anything, and they both said there was nothing on their radar or nothing on their thing that would show up here. And then years later, Google said, "Oh, that was us." But if it was Google, would they have not cleared that with the FAA or
They're in
Department of
partnership
Defense?
with the government, though, because the government. I'm sure everybody knows the military funds most of the stuff because they're going to use it too. But before we do it, can you just look up what a weather balloon actually looks like? I'm sitting here saying that looks stupid. That there's no way that could be a weather balloon. But if I'm being honest, I don't know what weather balloons back then looked like. So it just looks like a big ass balloon.
Yeah.
So it's not a fancy sort of word for a zeppelin or something. It's just a big balloon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Man, do you ever get the feeling that maybe we're not as high tech as we think we are? That's It's just a big ass balloon.
Yeah.
It worked and up.
Yes, it did. That's a sad movie if you really watch it when you're drunk. Don't watch it when you're drunk. It ruins everything.
And there's
Except for Doug.
another thing they found was they in
I was like, I've never watched Doug drunk.
You're like,
Slap her ass, Doug. Get that mayonnaise.
Patty Mayonnaise.
What a name.
get out.
Jeez.
The woman that played her was in Orange is the New Black and has her exact voice.
Oh,
If you ever
really?
want to hear what Patty Mayonnaise sounds like in prison, because she wasn't changing her voice for the part, it's just her voice.
Wow.
So it's always weird, but she's sitting there going, "You don't need to be stabbing that hoe." Not really. She didn't say it like that, but it is really her voice.
So there's lots of phenomenon that emerged from Kentucky, and like I said, the folks there on Hellier and PennyRoyal, they reckon, or they wonder, is it to do with the resonance of that crystal structure? Is that some sort of receiver for some sort of otherworldly entities to connect? There's also
The pan worshippers, though.
there's the pan worshippers. There's also a high percentage of mental illness in the counties there right over top of that. People from all over the state go to the Eastern Kentucky Mental Hospital, but 70% of them, 70% of them come from one area there, right over top of the tip of the crystal structure.
Is there
They're
a Buxom clinic there?
probably there's the Buxom Christian
Just
clinics
is that where all
everywhere.
the craziness is coming from?
No,
Does it make sense to you that the idea that it's pan and the crystals are going down into the earth? So that makes sense to me.
And we also have the flute. Pan was a flute player, like Dustin said, and then we
What do you
also have the
connect the flute
hum.
to?
The
Okay,
hum.
okay.
So this weird sound. We got this crystal
I wasn't
receiver.
connecting that.
We've got little green men. We also have
What the
the
green men
largest, the Hopkinsville Goblins.
Well, I mean, to like pan. Okay, hold on.
Well, because Fan is the green man. Pan is the green man. He's the god of like vegetation and fertility.
No, he's a goat boy, though.
He's the green man, though. He's also called literally the green man.
Show me.
Pan the green man. The green man. New growth that recurs every spring.
What I'm saying is, like, it's not the same character, though. It might be a different name for
In
a
modern
similar god.
paganism, the green man is often used to represent ecological awareness or seasonal renewal. He has been associated with everything from the Greek god Pan to the Celtic Serenos to the vegetative deities like Dionysus or the Welsh Bluewood. Basically, and they explain this in Hellier, this guy shows up all over the place. He has different names and different faces, but he always has the same characteristics.
So this looks more like the lager that you get. Is it lager or IPA that you get from Asheville, the Green Man lager?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, he's also the Green Man. Let's just say Pan is one iteration of the Green Man. So the Green Man is he shows up all over the place, and Pan is one iteration of him. And these guys studying this are like, what is driving this? And I'm like, okay, what is this? Are these cults and stuff up in Kentucky that are connected to him, and because these guys are doing all their research on the internet after the AI became part of the search engine. You've got like I said, I feel like a schizophrenic trying to put all this together, because it's like when I try to actually, like, I see the interconnected webs in my mind, but it's so hard to keep track of it and put it into a coherent.
Well, it's because you're hanging out in my world of thinking. Let me piece it together for you with my jumbled asshole brain. It seems like they are worshiping the earth with the representation of either Pan or the Green Man, and since that is the earth itself, you go into the earth. There's probably a network of pops and sort of stuff. I don't know about the Pan thing and the music thing, but I am interested to know about all the those horns and resonation sounds being connected to the natural gas pipelines. That's pretty interesting. But I do think the Pan idea does make sense, because a lot of the people who are wanting to kind of, wipe out 80% of the world's people are also nature worshippers. So a lot of those guys have stated outright that they would rather humanity end.
Yeah.
Well,
and then the human sacrifice would come into that. And Pan though is not really associated with human sacrifice, but it was interesting because I started looking that up. I looked, to try to find if Pan was associated with human sacrifice, and what I found was, let me find it here. The sacrifice to Pan, and this is like I said, this is one of those things where you start feeling schizophrenic, because I pull this up. And this is a sacrifice to Pan, and it's a tapestry. And here's Pan, and they're not bringing him humans, they're taking him flowers. Mm-hmm. But guess where this thing came from? The Goblins tapestry factory in France. And I look up the Goblins tapestry factory, and it goes back to the 1600s. Okay. So it's like I said, it's one of those connections where the words keep lining up. Goblins, and we're looking at the Kentucky, the goblins up there, the Hopkinsville Goblins, and I think that's where the word hobgoblin comes from. But again, all this phenomena connects together, and what does it all mean? I don't know, but I certainly think it's interesting, and the growing in popularity. And I feel like that the Manning Cave video is a good opportunity. Maybe I'll just play my part in the AI's game to introduce some of you over to these shows there, Hellier and PennyRoyal, so that you can join in the Pan, I don't know, whatever it is, the
Pantabulous.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, all this is very interesting stuff. Yeah.
You see the connection though when you get, because I do see a specification, because I just hang out, especially this time of year, I start hanging out in goblin mode where I just don't see people and I think awful things. Things like storms are coming, that sort of stuff. And so when I see Green Man versus Pan, it would actually make more sense since there's different renditions. For example, you don't worship Apollo when it's time for war. You worship his counterpart Mars. And there's who was the other one? Janus is the two-faced god. There's different renditions that you're supposed to appease. So if you're talking about the same Earth spirit, Pan would be the one that you would want to go to, because Pan is the one that's also associated with all the goat-headed shit. Like, don't you think that has to connect to Baphomet on a level? Yeah. Because they believe in all that. If you're going to go real down the crazy rabbit hole,
Baphomet is one iteration of that. Yes.
Well, it's the upside down version. It's the version that that has both genitals. It's the version that wants things flipped. And now that Cliff's out of the room, this is the part when we start talking about how we're going to secretly put his house on the market for sale. I'm playing. The upside down, I mean, they're going in caves and stuff, so I have to think on some level that that has something to do with it. Since he's gone, I don't really want to continue without him. When you were down in Alabama,
yes,
at the Furnace Fest, how many people you reckon were there? Because I'm interested in how many people are still into. It seems like more people, in my opinion. If you wanted to see some of those bands 10 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, pre-COVID, you could have seen them with maybe 250 people there, and now it seems like it's really sent a lot of energy into these bands, so I think that's pretty cool.
I mean, it was in the thousands range. I couldn't tell you, but I mean, it was like the second stage where a lot of the bands I shot were, it was covered, because it was in where it's in the old steel refinery place, the furnace.
I thought it was like it was some kind of factory setting.
Yeah, it's a historic. What?
Did it feel safe, or did it feel like if you mosh strong, you're going to get ahead?
No, it felt safe. It was great. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's definitely the best place to have a damn metal festival.
So it's like Metal Red Rocks?
Yes. But it's the second stage, it was in this big covered awning, it used to be they stored stuff there, and it had the slope, and you just see the whole thing go up to the very back, people packed in there. And then that was also, there were two other stages going on too that were also packed at the same time.
So it was kind of how many days was it?
3.
Okay. I'm gonna call it better Warped Tour, because Warped Tour really got off the rails there after a while. It started out cool.
I only got to go to a day and a half of it.
You got to go to a day and a half for free, and you got to shoot bands and stuff.
Yep.
So you had a good time on.
And if you actually look on the social media for the band Bleeding Through, it's someone else has gotten some pictures posted, and it's hey, you can look, I'm down there in the pit taking pictures while they're playing. I was like,
you should have been down there taking pictures, going spinning your hair.
There were times I was, yeah.
We got a Sean on here. He's
Hey,
with us.
Sean.
He's late, but he's behind.
Dalton says he sounds like they're sniffing the good glue in Kentucky, and he says call a tow company to haul away his truck. That's a good prank.
Well, the good glue in Kentucky, that's what happens to all the horses that lose the race.
Yeah, that's why they got the good glue, because the
Kentucky Derby.
That's right. And the bluegrass up there. Sean says, very interesting show. I'm watching, but I'm 27 minutes behind. The ideas that caves are interconnected to different states is fascinating. The caves are like pops in Mario. Yeah, they pretty much are, Dalton.
Yeah. Have you seen the Mario movie where they replace the people instead of Goombas? It's like a lizard people.
Even though that Yoshi was adorable.
I don't remember it.
In the 90s Mario film, like the little thing that looked like the little shitty T-Rex baby.
I vaguely remember it.
That's what Yoshi, that was the Yoshi.
I get those I get factoids in my head that don't matter, which is why I can remember Internet History had a video on the CIA weather balloons, but I can't remember anything from high school. But I'll also tell you that the main thing I remember about the Mario movie was that's the first time they used the level of CGI that they used when Bowser turned from human into a lizard. It wasn't good, but everybody was like, "Oh, computers, ooh!" And I was like,
I like that. It's like the movie's horrible, but
Is it so bad? I should go back and watch it.
I've not seen it in forever. I'm trying to find Yoshi here.
Maybe I'll go back and watch it. Well, there's just somebody you can connect it to. What's that guy's name? I can't remember his name.
John Leguizamo?
John Leguizamo. He has a whole bit in one of his bits about how the South Americans kind of just brushed that whole we used to sacrifice hundreds of thousands of our own people under the rug. It's where he was like, we just want to see some tacos and big hats. Forget the part where we're kind of killers.
See, isn't it adorable?
It looks like a little, it does look like a little raptor T-Rex thing. What year was this?
93.
Is this pre-Jurassic Park?
94.
So, because this looks like the kind of robotics that was used better in Jurassic Park, but it's like Marilyn Monroe. You should take a picture of that and put it up there and be like, remember that time they made a movie? You should put it up there and be like, don't trust this new Marilyn Monroe biopic. It's got a damn T-Rex in it.
93, yeah. So it was me.
93.
Yeah.
Anyway, we stopped it because, if we kept making points about caves and stuff without you here, you might get confused. So we got back on the Furnace Fest.
Oh, no, it's all right. I didn't do it in as coherent as a manner as I meant to, but let's sum it up real quick. We've got Green Man, we've got UFOs, we've got large cave systems, we've got huge quartz deposits. We've got
Missing 411's a part of it.
Yeah, we've got missing 411 in the national parks. We've got I didn't even get to. They found a megalodon tooth, so a giant shark bigger than Jaws in Mammoth Cave. So we've got the ancient connection to that. We've got Green Man, we got Pan, we got Colts, we got the Bluegrass Conspiracy, we got Man in Cave, Sacrifice to the Cave.
Isn't it part of that one cave they found for the Appalachian Mountains that's actually older than bones and stuff? That cave, there's like part of the cave that's been.
I'm not sure.
It's so old that there's actually no remnants of anything in there. So
the idea of it was that the base part of the Appalachian Mountains has been there. It was there pre-splitting because you can connect this part of the mountains all the way to a part in Europe and Africa. Mm-hmm. And so the idea those mountains were there before they split, and they didn't split before life. So the Appalachian Mountains literally are older than bone, is what they're saying, because it wasn't bone yet. So.
And we also have the oldest cave art in North America in Clarksville, Tennessee, connected to those things, similar to cave art that we've seen in Europe that is 20,000 years old and older. And there's some in France, there's some in Italy. It's kind of all over. But yeah, the oldest in Europe is in France, I'm pretty sure.
France has those creepy bone caves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the catacombs. Yeah, so a lot of weird stuff under the ground, a lot of weird connections being made, and people felt like when they're researching all this stuff that they're being guided by something, and they're not sure what it is, and they talk about how weird it is, and they don't understand it. But to me, I'm like, there's a common denominator in how the research is being done between these things, and they're using the internet. And when they're even showing how they do it, they're like, oh, I found this, I just randomly happened across this on Twitter, and then I randomly happened across this on another website. And it just seems like that the algorithm is leading them in that direction, and it seems like it's leading us in that direction too. And I felt like I've been guided along by whatever it is when I've been doing research for this. So, like, what is the algorithm?
I think it's a tool. And I think, like, I know, like, you got multiple different ways of it. Like, I think you're positing the question of, is it doing this to us versus I think we're very destructive. I don't think we're, like, you give us drugs and alcohol and we'll destroy ourselves. So I think if you give us a tool where instead of me getting to listen to Coast AM between the hours of such and such 2 or 3 nights a week, now I can just sit there and listen to all of it all the time. And if the algorithm knows that's what I'm going to click on, then it's just going to keep feeding that to me for ad revenue, I feel like.
Is it just for money, do you think? Or is
I feel like right now, I don't think it's not out of the idea that it couldn't go rogue, but I think right now it is just for money. Maybe not. Unless you're conflating money also with like political control and psyops and mind control.
Well, it's not only that, but I get into the we've talked before about the clockwork elves and DMT and how people get into these trance states using drugs or exhaustion, whatever it is that they used to do it throughout time, and they make contact with also little green men. They also run into a lot of hybrid people and animals, such, that you could compare to Pan, being he has hooves and horns, and that's something that you commonly run into in these things. Fairies are another things that they commonly run into. Fairy circles, people being taken away into the woods. All these things connect, and they all go back to basically making contact with another entity, and people were taking drugs in order to make contact with this entity, including this one from the American Genius Business News. What's DMT and why are techies and entrepreneurs secretly taking the drugs? And there are stories that's how they're coming up with a lot of these.
They're showing us something looks like heroin in a napkin.
I don't know, but
we don't know what DMT looks like. Get some pencil shavings and throw it in that napkin.
but a lot of people are making this connection, and apparently there are some scientists who say that they're getting their ideas while they're on DMT trips. And the story is that the clockwork elves, the machine elves, are these little green beings, in some cases green, but small beings who basically are responsible for keeping the universe working, and basically they run the show behind the scenes. Now, I've never encountered anything like this, but this is...
Have you done the...
No, I've never done any DMT.
No, okay. I have. It was 15 years ago, beyond the... what is it, statute of limitations, whatever it is. So there you go. Saw a talking wolf saying... like a golden Buddha thingy, and I've not seen like a green thingy, but I get what they mean when they say like a clockwork elf, because the only thing I've ever seen that I would call a clockwork elf was like I would say it looked more like a little lawn gnome statue thingy, and it was silver and it had great mobility. It moved around. It didn't seem robotic to me at all, but it didn't interact with me. Like that is the weird thing about DMT is like you're not just going to see patterns and crap. You will at like lower doses, but if you quote unquote pierce the veil, you're going to see something. That's the reason everybody's so fascinated with that. When it's not just see colors and maybe have some really crazy in-depth thoughts. There's going to be something else there, and it might interact with you. So.
Well, Dalton says there's a local legend around here that once upon a time a man robbed a bank and hid the money in a cave somewhere in the woods, but he died before he got to spend it, and no one's ever found it.
Get us those coordinates, Dalton.
Yeah,
we can find it.
I've seen a few stories like that. But I guess basically what I'm getting around to is there seems to be a connection being made, whether it's intentional, unintentional, if it's coincidental. The algorithm is making these connections. We're coming across all this info that seems to fit together, but does it really fit together and we're being guided by this? Or is it, the algorithm just, seeking to throw us stuff that we're interested in to keep us watching?
Have you seen, this is off topic, but it's on topic. It was an interview recently that a lady did with Jordan Peterson, and she was talking about the way she felt the culture was going right now. was there's some kind of a circle that happens with ants when they start swarming, where if some of them get caught, they'll get caught in a vortex, and there'll just be hundreds of them walking around in a circle, and they literally can't get out of it because there's no
They're following the ant in front.
yeah,
of
there's
them.
no. It's like hundreds of them doing the same thing. So the chemical path at that point has got them blinded, and they'll essentially exhaust themselves. And it does make me wonder. It doesn't concern me because I'm legitimately research. It's just entertainment for me. I think I'm so half crazy that most of the stuff I come up with I don't believe, and then I half believe all of it for fun. But it is a little concerning when you watch people go from seemingly normal individuals and they get caught in a rabbit hole of the internet. They spiral and they can't get out of it.
And they follow what? The Pied Piper.
Well, yeah, sure, yeah. I need some music for that though. Maybe it's a skin flute.
Hey, have you ever seen that?
That's about child toucher, isn't it?
I gotta find you something real quick.
It's awkward.
Let's see. I gotta see if I can find this air guitar contest.
Air guitar.
Oh, just hang on. It's so funny.
While you find that,
Yeah. Tell us
how
something
you
while
were
I find it.
saying, with like fae and fairy circles and stuff like that, because that kind of segues into this, not related but related. Remember, a friend of mine told me of something. It's in Morristown. It's off like the lake and stuff near the property where the first Evil Dead film was filmed. That whole property's like basically like bad fae energy. There's like lots of weird stuff that goes on there. And it was during a time of like near a full moon or something. His mom told him they were going to go play paintball on like a little island in the lake. And there's like, you shouldn't go do that right now. There's fae out. There's energy. The energy's not good. They're going to fuck with you. And they're like, oh, whatever, They went out and played, and it was just like, stuff kept happening to them, and it's like, the island wasn't very big, but it's like, it got bigger, and they got lost, and it kept getting bigger, and they couldn't find their way through it.
They were enchanted by the Fae.
Yeah. And it was like there were weird noises and.
Did it get bigger, or did they walk in circles like the ants?
Well, either way, in their mind.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Get you caught in
basically the same thing.
like vortex yourself.
Yeah. Well, let's look at this video real quick. It's pretty funny.
Keep in mind what the Pied Piper did, though. He took their kids.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the people they said. Now, what's the story
they were going to pay him to get rid of all the rats.
Yeah.
He did it, and then they said, "Ha, piss on you. We don't have to pay you."
That's
and
right.
he said, "Well, fine. I'm taking your kids."
Yeah.
So maybe that's what's happened with the in somehow in reality. Maybe we've wronged some ancient group of race or something like that. And now they're taking our kids as harvest because we didn't honor our agreement.
Yep, and you're bringing it back full circle. I mean, you're joking, but shit. I mean, you might be onto something. But let's watch this real quick so we can have a little laugh.
Like this, without the guitar, the fucking air guitar.
Guitar.
That's going to be coming up. And I'm telling you, folks, this is one you have to see through. I think Kenny Crumpton, you can play the air guitar. I'd say I'm playing the string flute, but I don't have the guitar.
What?
Man, I'll be really worried for you.
Oh, he did him wrong. Give him on the news and he couldn't come back.
Hey, look, it's the Green Man playing the skin flute.
Poor guy.
He said, "Well, I don't have any words for you now." Well, that's probably what I would have said too. But listen, y'all, go watch these shows. I don't know where to really even try to tie all this in together. I tried my best, but it's kind of hard to do in a conversation.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Because we go back and forth on each other, and
Do you think the internet historian brought these two together? Is that what you're thinking?
no, but I think the internet historian gave me an
algorithm.
excuse to talk to me about it, and are trying to feed the algorithm in order to basically peel. I mean, let's be honest, we're trying to.
Well, I'm not trying to do nothing.
Well, yeah, you are. We're all trying.
No, I'm trying to have a giggle laugh. You all start eating pills. That's on you.
We're all trying to basically. The internet historians' talk of the Kentucky cave system gives us an opportunity for me to do a talk that I've been wanting to get into before, and we're trying to appeal to the algorithm.
If I was trying to appeal to the algorithm, I'd go eat $10,000 cupcakes and go sit with princes with Mr. Beast.
Well, why don't we do that?
I
But
can't afford $10,000 cupcakes.
but basically, this
started fund.
this gives us a good opportunity to get into some of those topics. Yes.
If everyone drops us $1, we can do this.
If everyone get, it'll be a $300 cupcake.
Okay, we got to go DSP on to make this work.
We can do it reverse. If people don't give us money, we start taking clothes off. It's so hot and hairy.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. So yes, feed us money.
It's like, we have to have 5 subscribers by next week or Tim's coming shirtless.
Yes, so please subscribe because we know we don't want that. Hey, listen, y'all, I appreciate you joining us tonight. We're going to call it a night, and I wish I had a better way to tie it together, but it's a lot of interesting topics, and you can go research them for yourself, go listen to those podcasts and watch that show.
In on yourself.
That's right. And I'm a happy tune.
Next time you get AI, I'm going to say this off camera. I'm going to say this one off camera.
Okay.
They're waiting for you to do it. I was going,
Oh, okay.
I want that crayon out.
Okay, well, let's get out of here, y'all. Join us on Wednesday for our news and current events roundup, where Tim and I will be looking at local and national news and international news. We got a lot going on in that respect. So, well, we're going to try to save.
Even though it's already been over.
Dalton says, as this is your 55th anniversary on Sunday, wouldn't next year be your 1-year anniversary? No, we did our year in September, or August 24th was the anniversary of our first year anniversary. Most podcasts, most shows like this, they make it for under 3 episodes. 10% quit after 3 episodes, and only of that percentage, only 1% actually make it to 20 episodes. So
We are late.
that's right.
We're so
We're in
full
there.
of shit, we'll never run out of episodes.
That's
guys.
right. We can always find some crazy stuff to talk about. See you, Dalton. Thanks for all your participation. Thank you, Unibluffer. Thank you, Sean. Thanks to everybody else. Comment on this. What are we looking at?
Dalton says there's a local legend around here that once upon a time a man robbed a. Oh, never mind.
We already
I'm
read
reading
that one.
old quotes. I mean, it just
Yeah.
popped up. Never mind.
Yep, but thank you for joining us. Comment on the video. Go check out those shows I talked about, and we'll probably revisit this one at a later time because I want you all to have a chance to look at Man in Cave by Internet Historian. I linked it in the description. We also got Hellier, which I linked in the description, and PennyRoyal podcast. Go check all those things out, and let's get back together on this one. See you guys later.
Nipples.